from here, we can just kind of open it up for questions.
All right, anybody have a question, and we will unmute you if you want to raise your hand. Barbara Adams?
Yeah. Hi, Erika. I would like to ask, is Dr. Ayaz doing anything in Colorado with his FNIRS studies on pilot stress?
I haven't heard. What was this person?
The fellow who has the article about studying the pilot brain during stress.
Oh, very cool. I haven't heard. Do you know anything more about him?
Not yet, although
Okay.
I hope to. I'll keep you informed.
Yeah, please do. Yeah. What was the name again, so I can go look him up?
Dr. Ayaz, A-Y-A-Z.
A-Y-E-Z. Okay, I'll look him up.
Great.
All right.
Hey there, this is Frank Herman. Can I get a question in?
Erica?
Go ahead.
Frank Herman?
Okay, thank you. So there used to be this body of knowledge based around the 5 hazardous attitudes of pilots.
Yeah.
Is that still valid? Has that been supplanted by some new research?
Yep. So I also work for Advanced Aircrew Academy, and our crew resource management training also definitely focuses on those hazards of attitudes. And it's once again, there's another infinite variable of the combination of flight crews. It's always fascinating to watch 2 pilots who don't know each other, have never flown together, sit down in the cockpit, and now all of a sudden they're in charge of all of these lives, right? So yeah, that's definitely a huge aspect of, especially dealing with the emergency and how that emergency is going to go by who's leading and who's following, and having that collaboration with 2 strangers. So definitely part of the big picture of pilot training and how they deal with emergencies.
Hi, this is Magnolia. I'm pretty new to the organization. I actually just signed up this year. I have been trying my best to get my private pilot's license for quite a while now. I'd be very embarrassed to tell you how long it's been, but I'm an attorney, and I used to work for the Big Four, and I remember that I had this. One of my many instructors told me once, and he was like in his 60s or 60, maybe mid 60s. He said the worst students are lawyers and engineers.
Oh, great.
and I was like, why do you say that? And he said, well, you guys, you know, your brains are just really wired a certain way. And sometimes it's very hard for me to teach, you know, that kind of brain, you know. And I wanted to ask if you've had that kind of experience teaching people like me. Like, I'm a tax attorney, by the way. I'm not a criminal lawyer, but I'm in tax. I'm in the accounting tax world. But yeah, and you know, what is your tip for somebody like me who's like extremely busy but really wants to get her private pilot's license? My one of my colleagues in the law firm literally just got his I think in December, and I was so jealous. By the way, Eric, I also teach at MSU. I'm a law professor there in the Masters in Accountancy program.
Very cool. Yeah, it's funny because nobody ever seems to mingle, right? All the aviation people stay on one side, the lawyers stay over there. Yeah. I mean, you're going to come across people like attorneys who already have in their head, their minds made up about every single topic, right? The great thing about aviation is that it'll be self-explanatory, right? So somebody's not going to want to listen to their flight instructor, and the life will show that person how wrong they are. There's no in between in aviation, right? So no matter how strong your personality is and how much you believe that you're right, Mother Nature and that airplane is going to show you exactly who's right. So either you know it or you don't. But hang in there. It's, you know, especially flying in Colorado, we have bad weather. I mean, it's windy 8 months of the year, cloudy, and so hang in there. It can be frustrating. So yeah, if anybody ever has a question or they get frustrated, you can get a hold of me, Erica at A Chick in the Cockpit, anytime.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to unmute you so you can say hi and ask a question.
I don't have a question. I love what you had to say, though. I'm a student with Embry-Riddle and just finishing up my degree in aeronautics, and I'm in the master's program as well. So I'm been learning a great deal about accidents and studying situational awareness. And so really appreciate what you have to say on the topic.
I kind of lost you at the end there. Yeah, it's situational awareness is another huge topic of conversation, and how do you develop that? So at the university, I always tell my students, I'll walk in one day and I'll have some stuff on the board and some pictures and drawings, and I'll tell everyone, okay, put your head down on your desk and tell me exactly what's in the room. And they're always amazed at how much they don't remember. But then you start asking them to do that every day, and then all of a sudden it becomes a habit to pay more attention to what's out there. So another thing that you can learn how to do, but you have to be self-aware to even try to do it. So what you said you're going on the master's degree. Which Embry-Riddle location are you at?
I'm a worldwide student, so I've actually been online for a couple years now. So this actually was really convenient. I didn't have any transition to make, so that was nice. But yeah, it's been a journey either way.
Okay, so I'm so glad that you're here, because I've had to make my students go all online, and some of the stuff they're so used to having to have in lecture and that back and forth. Do you find, have you done traditional, classroom too? And how different is your learning for you online versus the classroom?
I have done both. I've done traditional semesters, and with Embry-Riddle, the online terms are 9 weeks long. So it's significantly faster. And what I like about that is actually the pace makes you pay attention to what's going on much more, in my own opinion. It's also significantly harder, and they do that on purpose for online students. So I do recommend, if you can be in person, to be in person. But for me, I've actually found it's been a fantastic experience, and I've loved it. The professors are great. The community is great. I've really enjoyed it. So I definitely think you should pay attention to what kind of learner you are. Like you said in the meeting today, though, because everybody learns so differently. And if you're a visual learner, then maybe online's good for you. But if you're more kinesthetic, then I don't recommend it at all, because everybody has to really be aware of their own needs in learning. But
right. Good. Yeah, my students are always amazed, because I do online open book tests, and so nobody studies for their midterm. They all think it's going to be super easy, and half of them bomb it because they have a perception of what that online and open book testing will be, and they learn really quickly that okay, it actually is harder to do online than it is in the classroom. So a lot more self-discipline to keep up, and not having somebody nag you to get it done.
Do you have any people who may have already started in aviation, but they've gotten in that scared place where they've learned everything, but they don't think they're good enough to continue, and how to overcome that?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that is the trigger for such a high washout rate, and it's kind of frustrating to see. And that's where your flight instructor, Trimby, can come in and help with that confidence. Yeah, every pilot's going to have the crap scared out of them. That's without a doubt. You're going to scare yourself. You're going to be in scary situations. And it's important to talk to other people about that, talk about the experience, what you can learn from it. And, it's that internal self-talk. We can talk ourselves down, or we can talk ourselves back up again. And if you don't have that network of people to help you out, sometimes that self-talk can just talk you right out of the industry. So I highly recommend making sure that you stay connected somehow with the Facebook group that like Trimby has on there. The rest of the network of the women pilots. It's really important for you to share those good and bad, just so that you know that everybody's gone through that. They've had that same feeling. and getting some different ideas of how to work it through, because what worked for me maybe won't work for you. And don't think just because it doesn't work for you that that's, you know, that's the only way to do it. So lots of opinions and lots of ideas, and you know, all the people that are on here, looks like we've got 36 people listening, and they'll all have a different idea of how to get through each, you know, barrier that you're dealing with or challenge right now. And it's even with that same thought, to always go through and have different flight instructors. Even if you love your flight instructor, it's important to go out and fly with somebody else, and take from each of those people what helps you. And yeah, it's, and kind of, you know, take the stuff that isn't making you thrive. It's hard right now because I know flight instructors, they, up until the COVID-19 challenge, the flight instructors have been being sucked up into the regional airlines, and so we weren't having flight instructors staying around for very long. So I know that can be a challenge, but if you don't like your flight instructor, have no shame in going to the next one. It's important in your whole, you know, career, if that's what you want to do with it, depends on that next phase and getting over that fear, and a flight instructor can certainly help.
Frank Herman, you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. Thank you. So in the last 30 years of looking at NASA data, NTSB data, and FAA data, has anything really changed in the last 30 years about why we crash a plane?
Our reasons for crashing are becoming a little bit different. And the irony is, it feels like we've reached this perfect apex of safety and understanding right around 2017. Commercial aviation, the airlines in 2017 had a single fatality in the world. That's, if you were to have told me that 20 years ago, I would have thought it was impossible. So I think that we hit that apex, and now we've kind of overshot what we do with our automation. We're designing airplanes now that are making decisions for pilots. And it's the automation that seems to be the confusion now for pilots in our failures and what we're making mistakes with. So it's kind of a teeter-totter back and forth with automation. It feels like a lot of times we automate things that we really shouldn't. Even like the Boeing Max, for example, the Part 25 certification for, you know, the reasons why they put the MCAS on there, it's kind of based on old necessity. I mean, I'm thinking if you don't know what a stall is by the time you're in the seat of a 737, we've got a much bigger issue with pilot training. So automation, in my mind, should always guide, suggest, inform, but never make decisions for us. And the last few big major incidents is because automation has made a decision, or of course the pilot's lack of understanding for what automation is doing. So the mistakes are still there. It's that a human error is still there, but now the mistakes now are being made on the understanding of automation. And if you look at every single NTSB accident, most of it comes down to a core misunderstanding of a system's function, and not necessarily that system itself, but it's not understanding how, when that system fails, how it affects all the other systems. So like we were saying before, every emergency I've ever had in the airplane has never gone the way the checklist says it's going to. So we practice over and over in the simulator, we have a certain outcome, and I expect that to happen, then all of a sudden you're in the real world and it just doesn't happen the way that you think it is. So it's being able to train pilots for those other variables. And it's hard, we've got so much we need to train pilots on. It's hard to spend extra time on any one thing, but kind of going back to the core root of how a pilot understands systems and learns them, if we can fix it way back there, it might help us on the end user with the interface with automation.
Thank you.
Okay, Don Stanton has a question now.
Hey, Erika, I just wanted to second what you said about automation. My experience was that as the airlines tried to do things more efficiently, they would reduce the number of hours in the sim, and they were pushing automation too much. Case in point, my very first check ride with Delta on a 7.3, All I had to do at the very last bit was to fly an ILS, and it was all hooked up, and then I clicked it off and flew a perfect ILS. And this Air Force C-141 guy chewed me out in a debriefing. He said, "Don, you really fly well, but where's your head work? Here at Delta, we want to use maximum use of automation." Now, I will self-reveal that he was pushing what Delta said. About 3 years later, Delta had a huge problem because some people had been flying the magenta line so much and just working on automation. They had a failure, cockpit went black, and they couldn't fly on basic instruments. So they put each of us, as we came back through the sim, up at 5,000 feet and said, hand fly it. And it was amazing how many people couldn't. And I'm so old that whenever I flew 7.6 to Europe, I would hand fly it all the way up to 31,000 feet. And it was to keep basically hand and eye and muscle coordination. Thank you.
I absolutely agree with you, Don. That's exactly it. You know, when a pilot goes in the sim, you feel like your entire life is on the line. So, you know, as a pilot, I certainly don't want any more obligation put on me, right, when I'm in that simulator. But what companies could do, and it sounds stupid, but they can actually make a portion of that sim session fun. You know, you walk in there and the sim instructor has a long list of things that they have to accomplish based on your operation specifications. You know, what approaches are you going to shoot? You can always do the V1 cut. You always have the same routine every time. And it really wouldn't take much if at the end the examiner or the instructor could say, hey, we're going to just have some fun now. There's this, you know, fail safe. You can't fail. We're not going to even talk about it. You know, no recording of this. And then just have fun with it. Load the pilots up. Give them a ton of emergencies just for fun. You know, bet on beers at dinner that night. Let the pilots free to screw up. You know, we go in there just life and death. You know, if I don't pass this check ride, you know, I won't have a job the next day. And hopefully the industry will understand that we need to let these pilots make these mistakes in the simulator, open up that training envelope a little bit larger. And I know it's expensive, but boy, one single aircraft accident, you know, just diminishes all that worry about spending a few extra minutes in the simulator. So yeah, Don, I think across the board, that manual hand flying, especially when, I mean, no matter how good you are, that autopilot is going to be better, and all the pilots know that. And after a while, it gets routine, right? You know, rotate, gear up, autopilot on, and you can go from here to Singapore with automation. And but even what you're doing, the simple thing of flying up to altitude, it sounds so minor, but it really is important. And I would hope that the airlines would encourage occasional, you know, if the weather's good, there's no turbulence, just, you know, hand fly that thing up to altitude. And I know the majority of the airlines have that same, they want you to use automation. It's for passenger comfort, and I get it, and it's efficiency. But the industry itself is looking back now and saying, okay, you know, why are we having airplanes crash at San Francisco on a perfectly VFR day? Because pilots don't understand, you know, auto throttle. So we've definitely, as an industry as a whole, are making mistakes because of that very reason. Yeah.
Thanks for your question, Don. Next up is Alexandria has a question for you. Alexandria?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I had a question kind of regarding my education. I'm debating if I want to switch from the aviation business program I'm doing at Embry-Riddle worldwide for a bachelor's degree, and switching it to aeronautics for an associate's degree, and going back into flying, because I got my private pilot license, and then I went to Embry-Riddle in Daytona planning to do the commercial pilot route, but got really overwhelmed with everything and like paying for everything. Yeah. And now I'm thinking I'd rather go back to flying since I miss it, and kind of ending the bachelor's degree and doing an associate's degree instead, and trying to get my instrument pilot and work my way up to commercial. But do you think having an associate's degree instead of a bachelor's degree, would that be like detrimental in getting jobs, or do you have any advice for me?
Yeah. So you kind of have to look at the long game, from now until the time you retire. I've watched the airline industry, it seems like every 7 or 8 year cycle of pilot surplus and then demand for pilots. And so they raise their restrictions and then lower their restrictions. And, the 2-year associate's degree would be fine if you can get back to flying again. But then I highly recommend just slowly picking away at the 4-year degree, taking one extension class at a time while you're doing all this. It's a long road to get into that paid pilot seat. So right now, I think that across the board, especially in business aviation, they've all dropped that college requirement. But that doesn't mean maybe after even the COVID-19 comeback, that it might be a little tighter competition again, and something like that could make the decision with 2 pilots that are equally qualified. But even as long as you say you're enrolled and you're working on it, most flight departments will accept that. So, if a 2-year degree right now will get you back in the cockpit, I'd say, yeah, go for that. But, keep that self-discipline in your head that you're still going to try to finish that 4-year degree. Just even if you can only do 1 class at a time, if they'll let you do that, just keep reaching for that goal while you're doing your flying thing. So take the pressure off, enjoy what you're doing at the moment. That's one of the things that I wish I'd spent more time paying attention to. I was always in a hurry to get to the next airplane, next job, next company. And, I didn't quite appreciate those moments that I had at that time because I was always reaching for the next thing. But take a moment to enjoy exactly what you're doing and where you are now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, Amy, I'd like for your high school girl to say hi to Miss Erika, and Erika can give her some advice as a high school girl.
Yeah, I just had a couple questions because I started the ground school to get my private pilot license, and just so far it's really overwhelming. Like there's just so much information that I'm trying to intake and not with school. So yeah, I just was wondering if you had any advice for me.
Yeah, it's like drinking from the fire hose, right? There's so much information, and that's definitely a mindset when you first come into it, because when you start looking at how much you have to learn, people think, oh, I just don't need to go fly this airplane, but it's weather and rules and regulations. And then when you get into a flight department, it's learning all of their specific company rules and regulations and the paperwork. My goodness, you spend 80% of your time before the flight just filling out paperwork. So it can feel overwhelming, definitely. It's that breaking it down and just telling yourself, I'm building the foundation of learning. So, I'm going to learn a little bit about weather. In the beginning, you're going to learn about 1 inch thick and about 1 mile wide. It's not deep information yet. You're going to learn a little bit about everything. That's where we all start. So it doesn't ever feel like you know everything, because you don't. I'm still learning after 30 years. I still have to go look stuff up, and there's just so much, and it changes so much, especially with the technology. So just know that feeling overwhelmed is the normal feeling, and that if you care about your safety and knowing everything, you'll always feel like you don't know enough. That's the way you should feel. You should always be wanting to know more about every single topic, because there's so much of it. But did you say did you already take an online private pilot ground school class, or?
Yeah, I'm taking it right now.
Oh, you are? Good. Yeah. Well, so you can work at your own speed. You're doing an online class, is that right?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, just work at your own speed. You will find stuff you're just like, I don't get this whatsoever. So that's the point where you can email me and ask me a question, okay?
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Okay, anytime.
Anybody else have any more questions? I know there's a lot of you here that haven't asked anything. There's Juliana. She has a question. Here's Juliana.
Yay, thank you so much. First of all, Erika, thank you so much. Your book really inspired me. I know I told you this already, but I just wanted to say it again. For whoever hasn't read it, please read it. It's amazing. I also hope that this will inspire more women to get into aviation. And then whoever just asked that question regarding the degree change at Embry-Riddle, I just wanted to add up on that because that's exactly what I did. I started with my business degree, and I quickly realized that I'm actually more interested in aeronautics. And then I switched in the middle of a term, actually. And it was honestly the best decision I could have made. I also had the goal to just do my associate's degree, and then now I ended up doing my bachelor degree. I just finished. I also got my pilot license, and it's honestly, it was so much better. The classes you will see are actually building up on the business degree. So you have a lot of these aspects there as well. You have a lot of law as well. So for me, with the ultimate goal to become an airline pilot, I think that really set me on the right track. And ultimately, if you train at a Part 141 school, you will also require just 1,000 hours versus 1,500 with that bachelor degree. So yeah, just
oh, cool.
keep in mind. Yeah.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better because I've been stressing about it a lot.
Go for it.
This is Bev Saller. Go ahead.
There's Mom. I've been an aviator's spouse and support for over 30 years. And now we have a new generation coming. It's actually the four generations of pilots in our family. I am a professional counselor, and your brain information and research and comments are very important to me. I'm also a neurofeedback clinician. But I want to know what you feel are the best ways to support a pilot.
Like from a spousal point of view, is that what, or for as a mother to your daughter? Both.
I think all of the above, as a friend, as a colleague, as anything. What would you say are the best ways to support? Because there's a lot of stress that can go into piloting. And coming from a military spouse's perspective over to United Airline spousal support perspective, there's a lot of different stressors. And when we're dealing with visual learners and introverts who don't express themselves verbally very well, what would you say you feel like are really good ways to come alongside someone to decompress?
Right. And it's interesting to watch. So somebody like Sarah, who starts off in college, right? And they have a perspective on what makes them happy now and what they see maybe in the future. And it's what will actually happen in reality will be so far from what she thinks right now, right? And what will make her happy. So you see a lot of pilots coming through their careers, changing so much, and what makes them happy changes. And part of the challenge for anybody, especially a spouse in aviation, is coming in and not understanding how overwhelming being a pilot is. It's not a job you just walk away from and you can set aside. I'm sure your husband was doing flight training and studying and going to get his medical and having, you can't drink 8 hours, 12 hours before flying. I mean, it's overwhelming. So every person's going to be different, right? So right now, Sarah is probably, maybe a little more quiet about it. And as she moves through her training, hopefully she's going to build that self-confidence and ego and is more willing to share the frustrations and those different support groups for the pilot, being able to sit down with a group of women and vent and complain and talk about those challenges. So that she has a place where she can just dump that information. I'm sure that it's the complexity for a parent too, because the parent is paying for the flight training. There's an expectation, to continue on and doing it efficiently, and the pressure for the student to make sure they're using their time efficiently. So, you said you're a psychologist, a therapist. I mean, those are the most important thing, of course, is to be able to have her someplace where she can talk about it. And it may not be with you, but having other pilots that she can talk to, male or female, is really important to have, especially people who are at the same stage of flight training. Those challenges are different. So as she moves along in her career, just always having that other support group where she can, talk about the frustrations and challenges. And it'll be different. That support group that she needs is different than what her parents can provide, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would agree 100%. Thanks very much.
And before any of you get married, make sure your spouse knows all the challenges of aviation, that you won't be home for Christmas and first birthday parties, and even when you have lots of seniority, a lot of times you still have to fly on holidays. So yeah.
Any more questions? Okay, I do want to give the book away, and we have 3 minutes left. So Erika, I don't know how long you can stay on. Katie Ray, do you know if we're going to get kicked off right at 7?
I don't think so. I think I put it to 7:15.
Okay, excellent. All right.
So I'll quickly say, if anybody has any questions later, even if it's a year from now and you're looking for a job, you can always get a hold of me. I'm on social media. It's Erika with a K at achickinthecockpit.com. Just drop me a note and whatever it is you want.
Okay, so we're going to give a book away, right? A Chick in the Cockpit. And Erika herself is going to mail it to you, right, Erika?
Yep.
An autographed copy?
Yep.
It's an excellent book, and it should definitely be a movie. We're trying to get some actresses, right, lined up for this. Be an excellent movie. So we're going to give one of those away to one lucky winner tonight. And we're going to decide that by who has the next birthday. So I'm going to unmute all.
Good.
And who thinks they have the nearest birthday? I'm July. Anybody have one earlier than July?
I'm May 3rd.
I'm in November.
Who said May 3rd?
Me, Alexandria.
Okay. Anybody can anybody here beat May 3rd? I've taken
March
you all off mute.
27, but I guess that doesn't count. It's going back.
So our winner is Alexandria.
Woohoo!
May 3rd. All right,
May
Alexandria.
3rd.
Yeah, you can email Miss Erika your email address, okay?
Awesome, thank you.
Or your snail mail address is what I meant. Your correction.
Yes.
Your snail mail address. Okay. All right, so we're all on mute. So I guess with this we'll say, oh, Erika, tell us about this royal thing. The royal, you got admitted into the royal something.
So I'm officially a fellow now. First time I've been a fellow. It's with the Royal Aeronautical Society, and actually I was supposed to go over there and give a talk a few weeks ago, and of course everything was canceled. So I'm hoping to go. They're going to reschedule it, but yeah, over in London they were having a yearly convention, and they're hopefully going to reschedule it. But that's what it was for.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So shall we all give her a round of applause, Miss Erika? Thank you so much. And on behalf of Women in Aviation Mile High Chapter, we want to thank you all for coming today, and also for Katie Ray for hooking us up with the Zoom. Yeah, come visit us. Visit Erika on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Visit Mile High Chapter, Women in Aviation, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything. Yeah, so thank you. And we'll get a recording of this. We'll stick it up on our website. Okay. And put it out on social media, that when people can actually link in and get that link and get in and watch this video, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you for all your insight, Erika.
Thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you, Erica.
See you out there.
Thank you.